Hey, today we are doing chapter 9, part 2, systems of stratification. So, here we're just going to talk about different systems that have happened in the past. And so, the first one to discuss is slavery. And so, slavery is the most extreme form of social stratification, and this means that it's the ownership of other people. And so historically, we have had slaves in the US, Africans in the South, and then we've also had indigenous and Mexican slaves in the West, and some of the Southwest as well. And so what's important is that they didn't have rights. As I said previously, they were the property, and they could not own land, and they could not do several things. And so why is this important to wealth and social stratification? The biggest thing is that they can't inherit anything. Right, and so there are people that have passed down land and money generation after generation that's really have profited off of slavery and off of the oppression of other people. And so there are people who are starting, there's one starting line, but there are people who are starting in from multiple different levels. Right, people with wealth are starting 10 times ahead of everyone else. Does that make sense? And so that's why talking about inheritance, wealth, and class are so interconnected and crucial to understand. The caste system. And so this is a closed system of stratification, which means that you can't fluctuate, you can't move, you can't work your way out of one and move into another one. People are born into their social standings and will remain there their whole lives. One example is the Hindu caste system, and the biggest one is probably because, or the main class would be like the untouchables, the lowest class, the ones that if you're there, you're born into it and that's it, and there's no flexibility, and that's completely kind of the stigma follows you and it'll never go away. And then we have a class system. And so this is a system based on both factors, social factors and individual achievement. And so this is an open system of stratification where you can marry across social class and you can move up the ladder if you have the opportunity and resources and access to do so. And so a class consists of a set of people who share similar status with regard to factors like wealth, income, education, and occupation. These are all the things we just defined in the previous lecture. Meritocracy, an ideal system based on the belief that social stratification is the result of personal effort or merit that determines the social standing. And so essentially with meritocracy is the idea that your own hard work, your own ideals, your own skills will give you the ability to move as you please within the social class system. And however, the problem is that a purely meritocracy society has never existed. And so, because it's not always purely based on merit, when we have things like inheritance, or when we have things like people in your family hire you for positions, or people you tend to be, it tends to be who you know, not what you know. And that's still very much the case today. And then so inheritance is one thing I mentioned, but the other step two, the other aspect of it is that conforming to dominant culture norms disrupt the notion of a pure meritocracy. So even abiding to middle class, upper class, and upper class norms, it means some people have an advantage to begin with. Some people, like myself, can move in and out of different classes through how we speak. And so we tend to talk about this in terms of race, but it can also be in terms of class, in that if you know how to code switch, if you know how to speak in a professional way in a particular setting, and you know when to switch your language into maybe something more comfortable, maybe more slang related, depending on the audience that you're in, means that you can be successful in dominant culture while still maintaining or retaining some part of your culture, or or be able to hold multiple norms and cultures in your mind, in your head. And so there are certain people that are raised with middle class values and upper class values that will have an advantage compared to someone who's a lower class person and doesn't understand or were taught the values of manners and reading and writing and obedience and different things like that. And so, uh, yeah. So that wraps up this lecture. Email me if you have any questions.